Eric Holmes. I'm not going to mention it again. I'm just going to say psychotherapy. All right. Psychotherapy centers on
Must.
centers on a struggling writer. He is in the midst of a possible divorce because his wife Susie, played by Britt Lauer from Severance. I've never seen Severance, but I think that's how you
Not
pronounce her
bad.
last name. Nor, yeah, Eric and I, we don't watch TV series. We should a little bit more. We
I
should be more
mean,
dedicated. Do we have
if
time,
we didn't
Eric?
have to watch 8 movies a week, maybe I'd
Okay.
have time for that. But
I mean, I echo it. I echo that is not a complaint from Eric. That is actually a statement of
this is
fact.
not Televatics, it's Cinematics.
Right, exactly. That said, okay, I think maybe Bruce Berkey has seen Severance, but Britt Lauer plays a wife. She wants to divorce her struggling writer husband, Keen, played by John Magaro. The catch is Keen may have a stroke of luck or maybe very bad luck because at a local diner, this is a New York set film, by the way, he runs into a retired serial killer named Kolmick, played by Steve Buscemi. Kolmick is supposedly a fan of Keen's novel, one of Keen's novels, and he offers Keen a very interesting proposition. He will teach him on the ways of being a serial killer as long as Keen uses that subject matter as the inspiration for his new book. The catch is Keen, for the last 4 years, has been working on another novel that he just can't get his head around. It's about a the battle between Homo sapiens and the
It's the Homo
Neanderthals, Homo
sapien
sapiens,
falls in love with the
and
last Neanderthal.
Neanderthal, yeah, and
Yeah.
40,000 BC. So that's a cockamamie plot he's been working at for the last 4 years,
And
and it's
I don't even think that works. Because when
I
he said that, I'm like, I
yeah,
mean, evolution doesn't work like that, really.
right. And the reason why we're actually mentioning what that plot novel is because it plays a role in psychotherapy as well. Ultimately, this is a very interesting mix between comedy. I don't even know if it's a thriller. I think it's mainly comedy, even though there
I
is
think comedic thriller for sure.
comedic. Oh, very good.
I mean, it's not like ha ha ha, like I'm not doubled over laughing, but it definitely has a light tone to it, except for when it's supposed to not be light, then it, gets serious business.
Okay, I will say this before we get to your review, Eric. Really love the performances by Buscemi, Magaro, and especially Lauer. Lauer as the wife is a very layered person, Susie, because she is, there is something, even though Susie is a very successful career woman and she's very focused, she is very, her behavior is extremely eccentric. The writer, Keen, he might annoy people, but he's neurotic. I could relate to him. I was cool with that. And Buscemi is great as comic. I really love the characters in this movie, and I would recommend this movie. My only complaint is it builds a really good world. Eric mentioned the comedic thriller elements. It hits on really good comedic moments. I audibly laughed at a couple of moments. Man, that ending was a little bit of it was a disappointment for me. And I'll get to my rating after Eric's review, but I was definitely disappointed. Eric, we're going to talk about that in a second, but years ago, there's this filmmaker, his name's Lasse Hallström, and he did a what movies did he do? I think his most popular film is What's Eating Gilbert Grape. What else? This Boy's Life or something? Lasse
What was that?
Hallström,
What was that one
he
with
did
Kevin Spacey and Julianne Moore, I
yeah,
think?
yeah, it's very good. Thank you,
The
Eric.
shipping news.
The shipping news. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah.
So this is Lasse Hallström. So you know Lasse Hallström.
Yeah.
Years ago, I was at a radio roundtable and I interviewed him. Was it for the Cider House Rules or it was one of those other movies? And someone asked him, "What attracts you to a project?" Because if you notice, we mentioned movies that seem to be very different from one another, and he said the first thing that he looks for, and I don't know, this was 30 years ago. I don't know if he kept to that mantra, but the first thing he looks for is he wants to make sure when he's reading a script, he wants to make sure the ending is very good. Okay. And I don't know if you push back on that as just a watcher, like if you were a director, do you want, if you're going to direct a project, must the story have a really good to great ending? That's what initially attracts him to directing a project. But for me as a movie watcher, that if you don't stick the landing, okay, I've said that it's a big thing for me. And I'll get to my rating later. But Eric, your review of psychotherapy.
Kind of thrown off on the what's a good ending.
I will tell you in a few
It's
moments
like Fight
after we.
Club's got a good ending, but you don't want that kind of ending for something like this because it wouldn't make sense.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
we might be able to talk
Um,
a couple
uh,
minutes after for spoilers.
the ending for Lake George wouldn't be as satisfying as for something like The Sixth Sense. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
maybe that's what they mean. Maybe the ending's satisfying
Okay.
for what was built before. But either way,
I'm
and then
getting really
sometimes you'll
sensitive,
watch
man.
movies that are good.
Don't argue
Some,
with me, Eric. I'm getting really sensitive, even though I said this is the best part of our show. I'm kidding. Go ahead. No, go ahead, Eric.
but sometimes you'll watch movies and hey, I'll give you $1,000 if you can tell me how it ended. Don't know, but I love the movie anyway.
That is
5-star movie.
that
So
is all fair.
I mean, I'll bring up Boogie Nights again. How's Boogie Nights in?
Well,
But I watched it a bunch of times. I love that movie. So,
I think I
um,
remember how it ends. Isn't he in front of a mirror? And oh, yeah, anyways,
yeah,
look.
yeah. But anyway, psychotherapy, the shallow tale of a writer who decided to write about a serial killer.
Oh, how dare
Um,
you? How dare you with that
I
title?
think I might agree with you on the ending on this, but this is
Okay.
yeah, after all that preamble, Greg, you're wrong for this reason, this reason, but I agree with you. Uh,
I love it.
all that said, this was an incredibly fun movie to watch.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, Britt Lauer, she was great. Like she was just just cold. And actually, there's where her character ends up, I thought made complete sense.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Yes.
Especially how she's been acting up until that point.
Yes.
Like, uh, she reveals something about herself. I'm like, yeah, I can see that.
Were you
Uh,
annoyed by Keen, played by John, the writer, the neurotic? Did he
I
annoy you at
did
all?
not buy him as a writer
Oh,
because
gotcha.
he's not curious enough. They say that he is, especially with that whole potato scene. They say that he's curious, but
It's a
he's
great scene. Potato scene's great. I think what you're saying is he's a little bit more of a pretender than an actual.
no, a writer should be able to read people. He does not read people at all.
Hmm.
He's got his self-awareness. I mean, maybe he can be a writer and have poor self-awareness. He can't read a room. Like
Is he a narcissist or is he just clueless?
probably clueless.
Okay.
Maybe a bit of narcissism in there. But either way, I'm not buying him as a writer. Although I guess he's kind of, supposedly not a. And I also think with that story that he's been writing for 4 years, it's pretty ridiculous. So maybe that's the point. He's not a great writer to begin with, but the thing that he wrote just happened to take off.
Right.
So maybe I'm talking myself out of my own only critique. Yeah, I'm not buying him as a writer, but then now that I look back on it, they kind of set him up that he's technically a writer, just not a very good one.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Maybe once he was curious. Okay, but we don't want to give it too much away, but maybe when he was younger. Let's just say when he was younger, he might have been curious, and maybe once he became a little bit more acclaimed, maybe he got set in his ways. I don't know. I also wanted to mention I like the way they portrayed New York for an indie film. It looked pretty. The beginning of
It
the
was like another character in the movie.
all right, no, the beginning of the movie felt like a Hitchcock film. The way it was shot, the colors. There's a situation that goes on with a green light and a red light between Magaro and Lauer. They're at a stop sign,
Oh,
at a
that
red
that that
light.
pays off later too.
That pays off later too, and it looks pretty. I don't know if you notice this, Eric. There are moments in the movie that there's not too much music until there is. So
Yeah.
there's some really great. I'm actually going to talk of myself on a higher rating, just talking back about psychotherapy. So yeah, what is your final thoughts and rating on psychotherapy, the shallow tale of a writer who does? And by the way, did you
Well,
think the ending?
I haven't even talked about Steve Buscemi in this. Is
Oh, go ahead. No,
Kolnick?
no, no, my bad. Yeah, go
Love
ahead.
his character in this because like he's got kind of like the more the broad what you would think of a serial killer. Like, oh, of course he's a serial killer, but like the more you get to know him, you get to he's got more like kind of quirks and intricacies of his character that kind of developed throughout. I think the character work in this is great. Like even the one that I didn't like, Keen, the more I'm thinking about it and talking about it, the more I think maybe that character is a lot more layered than I gave it credit for immediately.
Maybe he's supposed to, even though he's the main character, he ends up sort of serving as a foil to his wife
I think he's
and
more of a loser than I think the movie realizes he's more of a loser than I thought that the movie did, if
that's
that
fair.
makes sense.
Yeah, that does
I
make
gotta stop
sense.
saying that if that makes sense.
That definitely
But
makes.
either way, totally makes sense. I said it. Of course it does. But yes, Psychotherapy, the shallow tale of a writer who decided to write about a serial killer. I dig this one quite a bit. I'll probably go 4.5 on this.
4.5 stars from Eric
Yeah.
Holmes for Psychotherapy, the shallow tale of a writer who decided to write about a serial killer. And that movie is directed and written by Tolga Karacek. I am mispronouncing Tolga's name. I apologize for that. I was going to give this movie 3.5 stars because of my complaint over the ending. I will say this. I did not clarify. I complained about the ending because I wanted something else to happen. But the ending, in and of itself, is not a bad ending. It's not a bad ending. The characterizations are so well done. I don't see too many comedic thrillers. The way they handled it was pretty well done. And there are some really great moments in this movie. 4 stars for me for Psychotherapy, the shallow tale of a writer who decided to write about a serial killer. Look how
We
nice.
may we may
Look how
have to do it. We may have to do a quick spoiler because I
we'll do a
am
quick
kind
one.
of curious. Kind of curious of
Uh,
what your
it is a complaint.
hang-ups about the ending is.
It is a complaint, but again, I gave it 4 stars. You gave it 4.5 stars, and Bruce Perky. We'll see what Bruce Perky. I will say this: when you listen to Bruce Perky's review, he will say it was. He told me and Eric, spoiler alert, it's an entertaining movie. That probably shouts at least a 3.5 star out of 5. We'll see if he bumps it up to 4 stars. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. For more movie and television reviews and interviews, please subscribe to my Deepest Dream channel. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and as always, thanks so much for your support. Take care.